Call this meeting to order. Special meeting of the City Commission of Rio Grande City here in 5332 East US Highway 83, Commission Chamber Suite A. And it is November the 21st, 2018, approximately 6:12 p.m. here in Rio Grande City, Texas. This time we'll have the invocation by Commissioner Flores, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Jones.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon us today. We ask for your guidance in helping us make decisions for the betterment of our city and our residents. We ask for your protection of our law enforcement family, including fire and police, and we ask you for protection of those families needing shelter during this cold weather. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Next business and orders item 1B, roll call and finding of quorum. Ms. Peña?
Mayor Villarreal,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Garza,
Here.
Commissioner Flores,
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez. Commissioner Ramirez is absent. Commissioner Jones,
Here.
you have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Peña. Next business and orders item 2A, first reading and approval of ordinance number 2018-9, creating the position of Development Services Director. Mr. Perez?
This is a position that was discussed in the last meeting, Mayor. So this is the Development of Services Director position. We've been working with council on this, so we've got and I believe we covered all the bases that we had discussed in the previous meeting.
Okay. And I see the duties and responsibilities.
Correct.
Okay. This time, if there are no other questions by the commissioners, any questions for Mr. Perez? At this time, do we entertain a motion? Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Garza.
I second.
Have a second by Commissioner Flores. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Next, business and orders item 3, resolutions, letter A, discussion and possible action to approve resolution number 2018-22, authorizing the lease purchase agreement for new equipment for the Rio Grande City Fire Department. 3A, Chief? Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Hello, Chief.
What you have in front of you is we're trying to purchase some new equipment for the fire department. The equipment that we have as of right now are expired, some of them, meaning that they reached their lifespan. As per the Texas Commission on Fire Protection, they're requiring for us to update the equipment. There are going to be some self-contained breathing apparatuses that the employees use to go into fires, structure fires and vehicle fires and things like that, to protect them from inhaling all those contaminants and things like that. So we're going to be replacing some of that equipment that's already 15 years old. Their due date was on September the 3rd. It was when it was expired. So we took some of them out of service right now. They can't be used. So the other equipment is some turnout gear, what they use to fight the fires and go in grass fires, structure fires, vehicle accidents. Some of the equipment is also reaching their 10-year lifespan. I believe this coming year, some in December and others in March. So we're replacing most of them also with new gear. The Texas Commission on Fire Protection now requires that the equipment only is in life shell for a certain amount of time, that being 15 years or 10 years. So we purchased that, some of it 15 years ago, some of it we replaced it 10 years ago, so we're trying to replace that. Also the same thing, we're actually asking for hoses. A lot of the hoses, every year we do testing and most of them come out of service because they're, more than 10 years have been in the service. So a lot of the equipment, we did ask in the budget. We got the opportunity that we could buy most of the equipment that we get a lease purchase. The contract, the agreement is there, how much are we gonna be paying per year? So the proposal from from the department to administration was that we can buy all the equipment and have it for the next 10, 15 years and pay a little bit of time, and we'll probably be done in the next 3 to 5 years, depending what agreement you all reach.
So it's a lease purchase agreement, or?
Yes, correct. We're gonna be paying so much a year, depending on how much the amount on the down payment we give. The total comes out to $136,651. That's what the total, but we're gonna give a down payment and then they'll separate payments per year. So we're paying every year so much amount of money until
How many units are we getting, Chief?
we're getting 10 units. We're replacing all the ones, the old ones. They're from 97s, the ones that we bought the edition. So we're purchasing now the 2018 edition self-contained breathing apparatuses. The turnout gear, they were purchased back in '08. So most of the equipment is going on a service. That can't be used, not even for training, for anything. So what we do, we put it in the surplus equipment and then we give it out to other departments. Last time we gave it out to Mexico, our neighboring city, Guatemala. So the state, the Texas Commission on Fire Protection requires to do that. That way it's not a liability for the state itself and not a liability for the city. In case something happens to an individual that gets hurt or injured, death in the line of duty. So that's what they're doing that. Every year the equipment gets tested. That's by law. So we have documents that they're actually being tested, but it's already reached their 10-year lifespan for that. So that's what we're hoping, that we can get this lease agreement for that.
So we're replacing todo, or?
Yeah, we're replacing
everything.
all the
We're
packs.
running.
We're replacing, we call them air packs, self-contained. We're replacing all their uniforms. We're replacing most of the hoses and everything. So a lot of that equipment is going to be put out of service. That some of it really is, but it's going to be put out of service automatically once we get the new equipment in. Right now, what we're doing actually, we're kind of surviving because we're trying to switch equipment around that we had spares and stuff. So we're trying to fit them in and things like that. We're trying to work with that. We had an audit from the Texas Commission on Fire Protection about 3 weeks ago, and he just told us make sure that you go ahead and get your things done and get everything in place and just send in documents and all that stuff. So we're replacing everything. Everything's gonna get out of service. Then after it does get replaced, we'll put it as surplus equipment, and it's up to you all whatever you all want to do.
Financing, ¿estamos bien, Tulio, con esto?
Yes. As far as financing, we're okay to purchase. I think my understanding from Chief is they normally buy and replace some of this equipment on a yearly basis. They're having some type of special this time around that if he purchases, I guess the whole equipment, they get some equipment free as well, or some type of discount. So it was better off going with this option than replacing just a couple of equipment right now and then doing it again next year. So on their budget, they do have enough to cover their down payment. They use the remainder of what they budgeted for on some other stuff that they also needed as far as mattresses. If they do go with this financing, their first payment won't be due till next fiscal year, so we can.
And we're okay with the interest rate, 4.6 interest rate?
The interest rate is 4.39. I was looking at all our other interest rates. We're normally at 3 with Kansas State Bank. Most of our financing is done through Kansas State.
Because in the resolution, it says 4.6. Did I miss something?
Well, on the resolution, the thing is that it says 4.6 because it's with community leasing. If they go normally with another bank or whatever, it's gonna be probably less if you go
Well,
with
no, this one was the one that you all said, but this one has 4.39. This is what they
But
said. That's what we
but on the
got.
agreement, I think it's 4.6.
We have the agreement.
Yes, and the agreement, it changed because of the amount, I think it is. They based it on, like, it's
Subject to
4.3 because we were asking, okay, I don't know.
Basically
Oh,
authorizing
maybe.
subject to the.
Normally, the interest rates that we do get with Kansas State is, I checked, we have a 3.1, 3.0, 3.2. I think we have like 5 financing right now with Kansas State Bank. I didn't have enough time to send them the paperwork and see what kind of financing options they would give us, but I did do the math, and if we do get a 3.0 as opposed to the 4.3, It would save us, 5,000 at the long run, after the 5 years.
The reason.
I mean, I don't know that we would get that interest rate, it's just,
The reason we're trying to go with this as soon as possible is because the self-contained bread apparatus right now, they're about $9,000. Right now, the company is putting out a promotion. If you purchase by November 30th or submit the order, they're giving us to $6,300. And they're giving us, instead of 10 bottles, they're giving us 20 bottles and 20. They're giving us extra stuff. They're doing this promotion. Everybody throughout the U.S. is taking advantage of that right now. And they're, you know, I think the reason why, because the 18th product is already out there by the state that it's approved. So they're trying to get out of the 13. So, you know, they're trying to get rid of it. So they're getting a good promotions.
So you see this as the best option?
It is the best option, Mayor, because the reason why we're getting, for the amount of money we're gonna, we had actually budgeted the amount of money we're gonna purchase only some equipment, not all of it.
Okay.
So we saw the opportunity to purchase everything, and we're good to go for the next 10, 15 years, so we don't have to worry about that. So that's the option that we kind of saw that's best for the department and the city, and the employees, obviously, and we know that in the next 10 years, that's when we'll probably be looking at something else, unless something else critical happens, but I wouldn't think so.
Okay. Any other questions at this time?
So is it a
Mayor.
4.3 or 4.6?
4.39.
So is,
So the motion,
Alicia, real quick, could they,
You could approve it,
in a way that if you can get a better deal with Kansas State Bank at a lower interest rate?
Correct. They can move to approve you having permission to execute all documents regarding the purchase or lease agreement, subject to possible revision regarding the interest and also legal. We had some questions regarding jurisdiction and venue, assuming there were some legal issues in the future regarding this lease agreement. They want this to be litigated in some state up north. So we had an issue with that, and we're working on that part, the jurisdiction and venue. But you can authorize management to execute all documents subject to, if you get a better interest rate and also legal review in it. So that way you don't have to come back.
so the resolution would be amended to reflect the interest rate once it's determined?
is a way that you have it written down, cover
Yeah,
that portion too?
it should be able to cover, as long as you give them the permission to
The
execute. Authorization to execute, and if you get, tomorrow morning, you get a better interest rate, he has the permission already to execute.
To execute.
And we can change the venue and jurisdiction, as you know, how crucial that is in case of future litigation. I mean, you want to be in Texas, you don't want to be in, I mean,
so my question is here,
Very well.
because they asked for the mayor.
Mayor, I approve the lease, I approve the lease agreement and authorize the city manager to execute all documents necessary contingent upon legal review and approval of all legal terms.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion.
I second.
Have a motion to approve at this time by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Jones.
We're gonna try to negotiate.
Are we okay?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, business and orders, item 4, City Manager's Report, Letter A, presentation and acceptance of the 2015-2016 financial audit of the City of Rio Grande City.
Mayor, Commissioners, the long-awaited 2015-2016 audit is here. So, I will pass it on.
All right.
Proper personnel to deal with the details.
In that big size, whatever you call it, huh? The old year coming in, huh? Oh, wow. Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. Yes, finally, this audit report is out. It is over 2 years old. The numbers are over 2 years old, as you well know. I don't need to tell you that. And I can tell you that we have, not only during the time of the audit that we addressed things with your staff, we discussed many of the points that we have in here. In addition, we had an exit conference with management and went over the report, spent a couple of hours going through the report. So I don't intend to do that. I don't think you want me to do that. But I'll entertain any questions or any direction that you want to pursue with regards to the report. I can tell you that as a result of our audit and the work that we did to come up with this audit report, we had rendered an opinion, and the opinion does have some modifications. There were issues with the fixed assets, the valuation, the support was not there. So we did take exception to fixed assets, depreciation expense, and accumulated depreciation. So that, what we call that a modification to our opinion. The report itself, and I'm not going to make you accountants, but there's two sets of financial statements, one that we call government-wide full accrual, and what you are used to, the fund statements, and those are modified reports. On the full accrual, we're taking that modification that they're making impacts those financial statements. With regards to the fund balance, the general fund, the EDC, those in the rest of the fund statements, we're not taking exception to that. There's no modification. Those numbers are fairly presented as the way we have them. So just that distinction in the opinion, it's on page 1, 2, and 3. That's where we have rendered where we have our letter, our report. It's 2 or 3 pages. It's a lot of words in, a lot of accounting terminology, but specifically on page 2, you will see qualified opinion. Page 2, that's where we address the qualifications, and then the next paragraph is unmodified opinions, and that's where we're saying that the general fund, the EDC, and the rest of the funds at that level are not modified. So which is good. Okay. We also mentioned in the opinion that there were prior period adjustments, corrections to prior year's numbers. We're making reference in the opinion. I'm sorry, in this letter. Also, so and that is the emphasis of matter paragraph that you see there. Kind of those 3 middle paragraphs are the critical ones that you might want to focus on at your leisure. I can go through some of the numbers, but they're old numbers. I can go directly and address some of the reasons that there's modifications, and because we went through through all these things with management, and I'm going specifically to give me a second here. And by the way, I had 3 or 4 people auditing the team that was here auditing throughout this time. It is on page 82. We start on page 82. And it goes through page 90, and each page addresses one point or another. On page 82, I'm not going to read everything in here, but I'll tell you the gist of that, and that is first of all, overall accounting situation was in a poor situation, and therefore we're making this comment, and where the recommendation is at the bottom. We're saying the city should review their procedures for proper coding and timely recording of transactions at the end of each month and at the year end, of course. Basically, it's every area that we looked at, there were some issues with those accounts. I'll stop there. I don't need to say more than that. They have been working at it now, and that's one of the major reasons that the delay on issuing this report. On page 83, we address grants. Again, very important that the revenues, grants, that there be not only at year end, but throughout the year, that they be reviewed, adjusted, accrued properly, specifically at the end of the year, so that the proper receivable amounts and the proper revenue is recognized. And therefore, at the bottom, we say, departments and finance should review amounts received and expended on a regular basis, reconciled at year end, and adjusted as deemed necessary. Again, it's accounting, but it's more than accounting. You're working with money, with a grant, know where you're at the end of any month.
So if I may, in every one of these, and this is a good example, on grants or even on contracts, what we're doing is putting a box together that goes along with every project, so that we can track, if there's a $1 million grant that comes in for a specific project, that we account for all expenditures and we track to date as to where the balance is and how much is left on the grant as we go along. Not at the end, not after the fact, a year later, as we go along. In every project, we should have a box tracking every project and every grant and whether we go finance it or if it's a grant coming into the several sources. So in every finding that they have, we've already made steps or taken steps to remedy the situation every step of the way, and Mr. Cantu can probably elaborate more on that. That's just one example. They have a lot of providing oversight. One person handling money from beginning to end. So steps have already been taken with staff that one person cannot just accept money and then input it on the system and nobody ever provides oversight. Somebody needs to be checking that. Reconciling, posting on a regular basis, all those things already in the works. So I don't know if there's anything out there that maybe that you have brought to us that maybe we didn't respond or didn't act on, that you might want to highlight and say, hey, there's something pending that you guys have not looked into yet?
Actually not. Actually, one overall comment, and this is coming more from my staff to me, and now I'm passing it on to you, that very receptive group that you have right now, very receptive, taking action and taking corrective action. As a matter of fact, you just did most of my report that I was going to say, because there's later on we'll see one page where, or one section where all those items are being already addressed, and they're addressed here by, that's your corrective action that you all are taking. But no, I just about everything that we've been suggesting, we don't tell you what to do, we suggest, and if it's good for you all, it seems like you all are doing something about it, so that's very good. I'll just quickly go through some of these things. For example, you just mentioned the next one on page 84, it's segregation of duties, and that's, what are we, and you're familiar with that. We don't want, you do not want to have one person handling the entire transaction because there's opportunities to maybe something going wrong. So we want segregation of duties, so we're addressing that. And basically we're asking, you look at the controls, your controls, you're familiar, you're aware, let's just pursue it. The next, page 85, procurement, material weaknesses. Again, it seems like maybe in this particular year that we audited, there were some acquisitions over 50,000 that did not go through the bidding process. At least eight that we selected as a sample did not follow the procurement process, the bidding process. So that's what's our recommendation. The city should attend training. I say the city, the individuals, proper individuals, training on the procurement and review process in adherence to Texas local government code section, whatever it is in there, but to follow the bidding process when it's items over $50,000 or more.
Yeah. Does it point out the departments that did that?
The answer is yes. We selected across the board vendors, and so whatever vendors they were, they could have been from the same department or not. But yes, we know exactly which ones. On page 86, City Home Rule Charter, significant deficiencies. And again, I believe that you all are taking action on this already, but we look at the charter and it calls for certain things. The 5 and 10 year comprehensive long-term capital improvement plan. we did not see one, we're bringing this up. There were a few other items that the city needs to be complying with your own charter, so we suggest you follow the charter. On page 87, the EDC bylaw, also several points, the bylaws call for that the registered agent must be from the city. I don't know that that's state law, but that's in your bylaws. So, so we're suggesting that the bylaws be reviewed on a regular basis. There are several items under criteria, at least that we pointed out. For example, number 2, a performance evaluation process to ensure the achievement of the corporation's goals were met for the prior period. Again, that's part of what it's calling for. Also, contract between the city and the Department of Finance, and this is for the accounting services that in fact are being done by the finance department, but there's got to be some kind of a agreement. Yeah. So we're pointing that out. On 88 fixed assets, well, it's we just mentioned that fixed assets, that's an area that you all need to be working on to get the proper valuations and all this. This is the recommendation. The city should develop policies and procedures to identify capital assets as well as renew or acquire a new fixed asset software to track the city's capital assets. Curing the problem of fixed assets, it's a pretty big problem, a pretty big issue getting it fixed. There's some mitigating things with regards to the city in my view. One, it's of course, if you take care of equipment, vehicles, I'm going to say pretty simple. When it gets very difficult, many times it's infrastructure. So, and when we're talking about cities that have been incorporated for 100 years and they have infrastructure from 50 years ago, 60 years ago, it's massive. But still, it is a problem. It is a task, major task. When I say it's a problem, it's a task to get that cured, but it can be done. Let's see, on GASB 68, which means GASB 68, that's a pension, regarding pensions, and there's the requirement that you all need to be, the cities, anybody that has pensions, need to be doing due diligence in when they sign up eligible employees, either new employees, people that have retired, people, whatever. The information needs to be correct because it's being submitted to TMRS, to the retirement trust. So the information needs to be correct. That came about 3 years ago, that the push is to make sure that at the local level, meaning at your level here, the city, that the information is good information, because, and I did say it right, or TMRS. They are finding out, based on studies by the state, that a lot of the information, no, I don't know that a lot, but there's many errors. I'm not talking about the city, I'm talking about in general in the state, so they're pushing that to correct that. And of course, the last one, debt compliance. Well, this is, I didn't want to mention necessarily this one too much, emphasize too much, because talking about the audit, that needs to be in 120 days after year end. Right. If not, there's, first of all, it's state law. And secondly, it could impact future, financing. When you go out for bonds, it impacts your ratings and all that. So obviously, it's super critical that the audits get back on schedule. So I said you want to say it because the auditors, where are the auditors?
We have some deficiencies that absolutely need to be corrected, and we'll make sure that the staff with see the recommendations you've made, and definitely we need to address this. And thank you so much for pointing those out, because it's only gonna strengthen our departments.
Correct.
And now we just need to take the rein ourselves and see what how we're gonna structure all this to make sure we make all the corrections that are necessary. But I see the recommendations on their corrective action plan. I mean, from what you've read on the correction action plan, we're in the right direction here
Oh,
to,
sure. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First of all, we're seeing it already. We're seeing, obviously, it's gonna be, we're addressing the 9/30/16 year. Unfortunately, the 9/30/17 year will be in the same condition. What they're doing now, it will be impacting the maybe 9/18 or possibly the 9/19 year. But gotta start somewhere, sometime, and it's now.
and we should be good for the 17. I
Well,
mean, as far
No,
as,
that's what I'm saying, that
No.
17, it's what is it, it's water under the bridge, it's gonna be
what I
very.
mean to make sure we have everything and not wait till the end like we did this time around. In other words, to get it done
Sure.
in time.
no,
For
so
example-
his plan is to calls for Cantu and his staff will be pushing the majority, if not all, the entries that they can by the end of December, this December, right?
Yes, that is correct. We want to get as much done by the end of December 17th, so we can hand them over to the auditors. We know most of the schedules and most of what they're looking for. So it took a long time this time around because those schedules weren't there. We had to create them and be able to balance at the end. So we got all those schedules. It's just a matter of putting them to play and working with them and make all those entries that need to be done. And hopefully by the end of the year, we have the trial balances clear that we can get so they can work on it.
So that means by the end of the year, he's turning over the material or information to them to go do what they did with the rest that took so long.
Right, and that's where I'm headed, to make sure that we comply within the amount that's, because as you mentioned, of course, this brings a lot of consequences if we don't act, so we need to make sure that for the 17, that we're doing it accordingly as far as timelines.
There's a lot of traction that has been gotten up, just the mere fact that whatever adjustments were proposed in our audit for the 16 year, they're gonna be in your books by December 31st, but for us accountants, that's critical because then the system closes and you can't do anything else. That in itself is a huge gain for internally and for us, the auditors. In addition, we expect that next year, meaning for the 9/17 audit, that we won't have that many, or hopefully no prior period adjustments fixing things from the past, because that drives everybody crazy, not only them.
Time consuming.
So all that is positive.
So if they do turn everything over to you by the end of December, what does your crystal ball look like in turning back around?
I knew you were gonna ask me that.
Well, that's what they want to ask.
Of course. In my mind, this audit should take me about 600 hours. Of course, not only one person, we have several individuals in there that so I would say that probably a couple of months,
Okay,
not a year,
okay.
a couple of months. That it can be done under the assumption that yes, that the information is such, and I expect it to be much better than, in spite of that it's a year that you all were not here, you were not here, but because of the understanding of what needs to be in place,
Right.
that he'll be able to, he and the group.
Well, he understands what shape you need it in, and that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna ask, based on this audit that we just went through, or that you have just completed, it's, and the findings and recommendations that you have given us in this report, they have already been implemented for the 17.
18.
The way I understand it, or for the future audits, In other words, it should get easier.
Better.
should get easier every day that goes by.
Okay.
Yes, yes, sir.
As far as their recommendations, they're not implemented in the 16-17 year.
Right.
They're implemented in the 17-18, that's what I'm saying, 17-18, 18-19 should look a
That
lot
was
better.
from 18
I
on,
guess-
17, 18.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that basically the information that you asked for to complete this audit, we already know what is gonna be asked of you to be able to complete the 17.
They're
17.
gonna be very familiar, they're very familiar with what we're looking for. In addition, there's some, in order to get the September 16 audit out, there's several things that need to be done, and it's just an example. We have to read all the minutes through now, which doesn't, it's a task, it's not a huge thing, but it's a task that, to get 17 out now, we just read from now to the next 3 months or whatever, and don't have to read 2 years worth of minutes. I mean, that's only one example, because already we have gained ground on those areas. They're familiar that we ask of them, and again, I'm going to throw some accounting terms or the accounting cycles. Tell us how this works, how collection in municipal court work. Well, now we've got that. Now it's a quick update. So there's a lot of things that will accelerate, will help the next year. Yes, sir.
And it really comes down to that, to make sure we meet all the timelines from here on out. And of course, address any recommendations, address any deficiencies, and make our accounting system a lot stronger than what it's been in the past, which of course is where we're headed. That's really what we want to get to. And it is clear that we have some deficiencies, and we're going to do our best to address and recognize that we have them and address them. So definitely that's where
Ultimately, we should become in compliance with the state and the charter and everything that's in place that we should be following.
Right.
And basically, that's my presentation, unless you have any other questions for me.
Well, sir, thank you for all these recommendations. I'm sure we're gonna, it's gonna improve our systems in place from here on out, and making it, like I said, stronger, and have make it easier for us to move through these processes, and of course, meeting all the timelines that we need. And as you mentioned, there are other consequences if we don't get all this in time. So we're gonna take all that into consideration and address it. And I'm sure Mr. Perez will come up with a great plan to make this happen, and Mr.
Yes, sir. We might have an internal audit.
That's right, we're gonna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very
You have a
much.
safe trip home.
We will, sir.
At this time, do we have a specific motion that we need, or is it just?
No, sir, just a motion to accept the audit as
Okay.
I
presented.
so move it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Garza to approve the audit as presented.
My second.
Have a second by Commissioner Flores. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I oppose. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, business and orders, item 5, contracts and agreements, letter A, discussion and possible agreement to approve a memorandum of agreement between the Rio Grande Public Library and UTRGV Small Business Development Center. 5A, what do we have?
That's coming from the library, sir. Believe we do this on a yearly basis between the University of Texas and the Rio Grande Valley and Small Business Center.
And recognizing that our library is in the top 10% in the state of Texas. Once more, got to recognize that.
Yes.
And they're always, Ms. Foltz and her staff do a tremendous job
You
with,
do a very good job.
they do a tremendous job with the library. And certainly great to have them.
That's training.
Any, entertain a motion at this time or further
I
discussion?
make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion
I second,
to approve by Commissioner Garza, second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. Motion carries. Anything else before we And by the way, everybody have a great Thanksgiving tomorrow. It's gonna be a wonderful festivities and certainly a Thanksgiving feast for many of us and actually all of us. So hope that everybody has a safe and blessed Thanksgiving. This time, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Gasa. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. It is 6:52.